How I trusted a person in my youth and regretted it. How did I trust my best friend at that time? Now I will tell you a sad story of my life that opened my eyes to people, and I became less trusting. I was 20 when I headed to a party at a friend's house. The place was packed, with music blaring and people laughing, but I wasn't into the chaos. Then I saw her, a pretty girl with a quiet way about her, standing by the drinks table. She had dark hair and a smart look, not loud like the others. I walked over and said hi, and we started talking. The night slipped away as we stood there, forgetting the party around us. We talked about my job at a local store, how I like fixing old radios in my spare time, and she shared that she worked at a library, sorting books and helping people find what they needed. She mentioned her love for history documentaries and how she watched them to unwind. I told her about my last vacation, a cheap trip to the coast where I just sat by the water, and she laughed, saying she'd never been but always wanted to try it. Hours passed, and the crowd thinned out. We didn't notice people leaving until it was just us and a few stragglers. Then my best friend Jake showed up. He grinned and said, "You two still here? Planning to camp out?" He shook her hand and looked at her a bit too long, then added, "I see wise glued to you. You're stunning." She blushed, her cheeks turning red, and mumbled, "Thanks," looking down at her shoes. Jake chuckled and headed out, leaving us alone again. The room felt quieter after he left, and she turned to me, saying, "I really enjoyed this. We should hang out again sometime." I agreed, feeling a spark, and we swapped numbers. She smiled and grabbed her jacket, walking out into the night. The next day, I couldn't get her out of my head. Her name was Lisa, and she had this calm vibe that stuck with me. I texted her, and we met at a small cafe downtown. We sat by the window with our coffees, and she opened up more. She talked about her family, her mom who worked long hours as a nurse, her younger brother who was into video games, and how her dad wasn't around. She said he left when she was little, and she barely remembered him, just a vague image of a man who didn't stay. It hit me how open she was, trusting me with that. I shared about my own family, my parents who argued a lot but stayed together, and how I moved out to get some space. She nodded, saying she understood, and we kept going, talking about favorite foods. She liked pasta, I preferred burgers, and how she dreamed of traveling but never had the cash. I felt drawn to her, her honesty making me want to know her better. A week later, I asked her to be my girlfriend. We were walking in a park, the air cool, and I just blurted it out. She stopped, looked at me, and said yes with a small smile. We started dating after that, spending time together watching movies or just sitting in her apartment. I introduced her to some friends, including Jake, who remembered her from the party. He was friendly, joking about how I found the one, and we all hung out a few times. Things felt solid until Jake invited us to another party at his place. We showed up together, and it started off fine. We drank a little, danced to the music, and chatted with others. Lisa held my hand, laughing at my bad dance moves. But after an hour, I noticed she wasn't there. I asked around, but no one had seen her. My gut twisted as I started checking rooms. I opened a door down the hall and saw Lisa on the bed, in her underwear, with Jake, shirtless, next to her. I shut the door fast, my face draining of color. This was my first real love, and she was with my best friend. I stood in the hallway, stunned. The party noise buzzed around me, but it felt far off. Lisa had been special. Her quiet stories about growing up without a dad, her smart takes on history docs, the way she trusted me with her past. Now that trust was shattered. Jake had been my rock since we were kids, always backing me up, but this betrayal cut deep. I didn't say anything to them right then. I just left, walking out into the cool night air, feeling sick. My mind was a mess, and I knew this was just the beginning of dealing with it. The next day, I met Lisa at a small cafe downtown. The place was quiet, with a few tables and the smell of coffee in the air. I got there first and grabbed a seat by the window. She walked in wearing a blue jacket, her dark hair down, and smiled when she saw me. We ordered coffees, black for me with cream for her, and sat down. I asked how she slept after the party, and she said she was tired but couldn't stop thinking about our talk. We started chatting again, picking up where we left off. She told me about her job at the library, how she liked organizing books and helping people find old novels. I said I worked at a store, stocking shelves and fixing radios on the side, and she seemed interested, asking what kind of radios I worked on. I mentioned an old one with a cracked dial I was trying to fix, and she laughed, saying she'd never been good with electronics. We kept talking, and she opened up about her family. She said her mom was a nurse who worked night shifts, always busy but kind. Her younger brother, Tim, was 16 and obsessed with video games, staying up late to play online. Then she got quiet and said her dad wasn't around. He left when she was 5, and she didn't remember much, just a blurry picture of him walking out with a suitcase. She said her mom never talked about him, and she grew up wondering why he didn't stay. I listened, feeling bad for her, and told her about my parents. They argued a lot about money, but they were still together, living in the same house where I grew up. I moved out to get some space, and she nodded, saying she got it, having felt the same with her mom's long hours. We talked about other stuff, too. Her favorite food was pizza with extra cheese, while I liked steak, and she said she wanted to visit Italy someday but hadn't saved enough. I said I'd been to the coast once, just to sit by the water, and she smiled, saying that sounded nice. The time flew by, and we ordered second coffees. She asked about my friends, and I mentioned Jake, the guy from the party, saying he was my best friend since we were kids. She remembered him and said he seemed funny. I asked about her friends, and she said she had a couple from work, but kept to herself mostly. She liked reading history books, especially about wars, and told me about a book on World War II she was reading. I said I wasn't much of a reader, but liked watching action movies, and we laughed about that. She had this way of listening that made me feel comfortable, and I found myself wanting to know more about her. We talked about music, too. She liked soft rock. I preferred loud guitar riffs, and she said she played the piano a little as a kid, but stopped. I told her I tried guitar once but gave up, and we both laughed again. A week went by, and we hung out a few more times. We walked in the park one evening, the air cool and the path lined with trees. We talked about our days. She had a tough shift at the library. I dealt with a rude customer at the store, and she asked if I'd ever been in love. I said no, not really, and she said the same, her eyes on the ground. That made me think about her more, how she trusted me with her dad leaving and her quiet life. I liked that she wasn't pushy, just honest. One night, we sat on a bench after dinner, and I decided to ask her, "Lisa, do you want to be my girlfriend?" I said it straight, no fancy words. She looked at me surprised and smiled and said, "Yeah, I'd like that." We started dating after that, seeing each other almost every day. We watched movies at her place, ate takeout, and talked late into the night. I felt good about it, like she was someone I could count on. Things were simple but nice until Jake invited us to another party at his house. We showed up together, and it started okay. The music was loud, people were dancing, and we had a couple of drinks. Lisa held my hand, joking about my dance moves, and we talked with some friends. But after an hour, I noticed she wasn't around. I asked people, but no one knew where she went. My stomach dropped as I started looking through the rooms. I opened the door down the hall and saw Lisa on the bed, in her underwear, with Jake, shirtless, next to her. I shut the door quick, my face going pale. This was my first real relationship, and she was with my best friend. I stood there, shocked, the party noise fading. Lisa had been special. Her stories about growing up without a dad, her library job, her easy laugh, and now that trust was broken. Jake had been my go-to guy, but this changed everything. I didn't say anything to them then. I just left, walking out into the night, feeling sick and unsure what to do next. After Lisa said yes to dating, we started spending a lot of time together. It felt like every day we found something to do. We'd meet up after work, walking through the park or sitting on benches, talking about anything that came to mind. One evening, we grabbed takeout pizza and ate it at her place, watching a comedy movie on her small TV. She laughed at the jokes, and I liked how easy it was to be around her. We stayed up late, talking until midnight about her library job and my store shifts, and she'd tell me funny stories about customers asking for books that didn't exist. I'd share about a guy who tried to return a broken radio, blaming me, and we'd both crack up. It was simple but fun, like something out of a movie. We went on more dates, like a trip to a cheap diner where we tried their burgers. She said hers was too greasy, but ate it anyway, and I teased her about it. We walked home, holding hands, and she pointed out stars she could name from a book she read. I didn't know much about stars, but I listened, enjoying how she explained things. Another night, we watched a horror movie at my apartment, and she hit her face in my shoulder during the scary parts. We talked after about how she hated jump scares but loved the stories, and I said I just liked the action. We'd sit on my couch, the room dark except for the TV light, and keep going until we were too tired to speak. It felt like a routine, but a good one, and I looked forward to seeing her. I hadn't introduced her to my parents yet. They lived across town, and we weren't that close since I moved out. I figured I'd wait until things were more serious, maybe in a few months. But I did bring her around my friends. We met up at a bar one night, and they liked her right away. She was quiet at first, sipping a soda, but joined in when they started joking about my bad cooking. I laughed too, and she fit in well. Then there was Jake. He'd seen her at the first party, and when I brought her to a small get-together at his place, he remembered her. He said hi, smiling, and told her, "Good to see you again. Still keeping him busy, huh?" She smiled back and said, "Yeah, he's hard to keep up with." They chatted for a bit about the party, and he asked if she liked his music playlist. She said it was great, and they talked about bands for a while. I watched them, feeling okay about it, thinking Jake was just being friendly like always. We kept dating, and every day felt better. We'd go for long walks, sometimes stopping at a store to buy snacks, and sit on a bench to eat them. She'd tell me about a new book she found, like one about old wars, and I'd listen, even if I didn't get all the details. I talked about my day, like a slow day at the store or a radio I fixed, and she'd nod, asking questions. One night, we stayed up late at her place again, watching another movie, and she fell asleep on my shoulder. I didn't move, just let her rest, feeling close to her. It was like a dream, but real, and I thought this could last. We didn't talk about big stuff like marriage, just enjoyed the moment. My friends kept saying she was cool, and Jake would nod, saying I picked a good one. Things were going smooth until he invited us to another party at his house. We said yes, thinking it'd be another fun night. We showed up together, and it started fine, music playing, people dancing, us laughing. But after an hour, I noticed Lisa wasn't next to me. I asked around, and no one knew where she went. My gut sank as I started checking rooms. I opened a door and saw Lisa on the bed, in her underwear, with Jake shirtless beside her. I closed it fast, my face going white. This was my girlfriend, my first real love, and she was with my best friend. I stood there, frozen. The party noise was loud, but it didn't reach me. Lisa had been everything. Her stories about growing up without a dad, her quiet laugh, the way she trusted me. Now that was gone. Jake had been my buddy forever. But this broke it all. I didn't confront them then. I just left, walking out into the night, feeling sick and lost. My mind was a jumble, and I knew I had to figure out what to do next. A few weeks into dating, Jake called and invited Lisa and me to a party at his house. He sounded excited, saying it'd be a good time with music and food, and we agreed to go. It was a Saturday night, and we got ready together at her place. She wore a black top and jeans, looking nice, and I put on a clean shirt. We drove over, laughing about how I almost forgot the way to his place. When we arrived, the house was full. People talking, music playing loud, and the smell of pizza in the air. Jake greeted us at the door, smiling, and said, "Glad you made it. Let's get you drinks." We grabbed some beers and joined the crowd. Lisa held my hand, and we danced a little, moving to the beat. She teased me about my stiff dance moves, and I joked back, saying she wasn't much better. It felt good, like we were part of the fun. We mingled with others, talking to a couple of Jake's friends. One guy, Mike, asked how we met, and I told him about the first party, how we talked all night. Lisa nodded, adding that she liked my radio stories, and Mike laughed, saying I should fix his old stereo sometime. We moved to the kitchen, where people were grabbing chips, and Lisa chatted with a girl about a movie they both liked. I stood by, sipping my beer, feeling relaxed. Jake came over, offering more drinks, and said to Lisa, "You're making this party better already." She smiled and thanked him, and he went to check on the music. We kept going, dancing again when a slow song came on, and she rested her head on my shoulder. I thought about how lucky I was, her quiet trust from our talks about her dad and family, still fresh in my mind. An hour passed, and I noticed Lisa wasn't next to me. We'd been by the couch, talking to Mike, but she'd stepped away to get water, she said. I looked around the living room. People still dancing, laughing, the music steady, but didn't see her. I asked Mike if he'd seen her, and he shrugged, saying she might be in the bathroom. I waited a few minutes, but she didn't come back. My stomach started to twist. I walked to the bathroom and knocked, but no answer. I checked the kitchen, where a group was playing cards, and asked if anyone saw her. One guy said she'd gone toward the hall, maybe to talk to someone. I nodded and headed that way, my heart beating faster. The hall was darker, with a few people leaning against the walls, talking. I didn't see her, so I started opening doors. The first was a storage room, full of boxes, but empty. The second was a bathroom, unoccupied. My worry grew as I moved to the next door. I opened another door, expecting to find her chatting, but stopped cold. There was Lisa on the bed, in her underwear, with Jake, shirtless, sitting close to her. They looked up, startled, and I slammed the door shut. My face went pale, and I stood there, shocked. This was my girlfriend, the one I'd asked out after our coffee dates, who'd told me about her dad leaving and her quiet life. And Jake, my best friend since we were kids, the guy who joked with us earlier. I couldn't believe it. The party noise, music, laughter faded as my mind raced. I felt sick, my hand shaking. This was supposed to be a fun night, but now it was a mess. I didn't know what to say or do, so I just walked away from the door, heading back through the hall. My chest tightened as I thought about confronting them, but I needed to think first. I pushed through the crowd and stepped outside, the cool air hitting me, trying to figure out my next move. I kept moving down the hall, my heart pounding as I checked more rooms. The party noise, music, laughter was muffled behind me, and the air felt thick. I opened another door, hoping to find Lisa chatting with someone, but what I saw stopped me cold. There she was on the bed, in her underwear, with Jake sitting next to her, shirtless. His jeans were unbuttoned, and her black top was on the floor. They both looked up, startled, and I stood there for a second, unable to move. My mind blanked, and I slammed the door shut, the sound echoing in my head. My face went pale, and a wave of nausea hit me. I leaned against the wall, my stomach turning, feeling like I might throw up right there in the hall. I stood still, trying to breathe, but my chest felt tight. The image of Lisa and Jake stuck in my head, her dark hair messy, his hands on the bed near her, the way they froze when they saw me. I couldn't believe it. This was the girl I'd met at that first party, the one who talked about her dad leaving and her quiet life at the library. We'd had coffee, walked in the park, watched movies together, and now she was with my best friend. Jake, the guy I'd known since we were kids, who'd been at my side through fights and bad days, was part of this. I rubbed my face, my hands shaking, and felt sweat on my forehead. My legs wobbled, and I slid down to sit on the floor, the cool wall against my back. The party went on, voices and music filtering through, but it didn't reach me. I stared at the carpet, trying to make sense of it. Lisa had been my first real girlfriend, someone I trusted after our long talks. She'd told me about her mom's night shifts, her brother's gaming, and how she grew up without a dad. I'd felt close to her, thinking she was different. And Jake, he'd joked with us earlier, brought us drinks, acted like nothing was wrong. Now they were together, and I didn't know how long it had been going on. My head spun with questions. Did they plan this? Was it just a night? I couldn't wrap my mind around it, and the sickness grew stronger. I put my head in my hands, breathing hard, the hall spinning around me. I stayed there, dazed, for what felt like forever. The door stayed closed, and I didn't hear anything from inside. No voices, no movement. Part of me wanted to barge back in, yell at them, but my body wouldn't move. I felt betrayed, like someone punched me in the gut. Lisa's smile from our dates, Jake's laugh from our hangouts. It all felt fake now. I thought about leaving, just walking out and never coming back. But my legs wouldn't cooperate. The party crowd was still loud. Some guys shouting about a game in the living room, but it was distant. I kept seeing them. Lisa's underwear, Jake's bare chest, and it made me feel worse. My mouth was dry, and I swallowed hard, trying not to be sick. I didn't believe this was happening. Not to me, not with them. After a while, I forced myself up, using the wall for support. My hands were still shaky and my stomach churned. I didn't want to face them. Didn't want to hear excuses. The hall was empty now, most people staying in the main rooms. I took a few steps, then stopped, looking back at the door. Part of me wondered if I'd imagined it, but I knew I hadn't. Lisa and Jake, my girlfriend and my best friend, had crossed the line. I felt a mix of anger and hurt, but mostly shock. I didn't know what to do next, so I just stood there, the party noise fading, my mind a mess. The night air outside called to me, but I wasn't ready to leave yet. I needed to think, to figure out how to handle this betrayal. I couldn't stay in that house after what I saw. I turned away from the door, my legs shaky, and pushed through the crowd without saying a word. The music was loud, people laughing, but it all felt distant. I grabbed my jacket from the couch and walked out the front door, the cool night air hitting my face. My car was parked down the street, and I got in, my hands still trembling. I didn't look back as I drove home. The streets quiet except for the hum of a few late cars. My mind was a mess, replaying Lisa on the bed with Jake, and I felt sick all over again. I got to my apartment, locked the door, and sat on the couch, staring at the wall, trying to process it. The next morning, my phone started buzzing. It was Lisa calling over and over. I looked at the screen. 5 missed calls, then 10. She left voicemails, her voice shaky, saying she needed to talk. Then came texts. Please pick up. It's not what you think. I'm so sorry. I didn't read them all, just deleted them one by one. My thumb hovered over the block button, but I didn't press it yet. I turned the phone off and threw it on the table. The silence felt heavy, and I didn't want to hear her excuses. She'd been my girlfriend, the one I trusted with her stories about her dad leaving, and now this. I couldn't face her voice, not after seeing her like that. Jake didn't call, but I ran into him a couple days later at a gas station. He acted like nothing happened, filling his tank and nodding at me. Hey, man, good party, huh? He said, grinning like usual. I stared at him, my stomach twisting, but he just kept talking about the music and how Mike got drunk. He didn't mention Lisa or the bedroom, not a hint of guilt. I mumbled something about needing to go and walked away, my hands clenched. It hit me hard. My best friend since we were kids, the guy who'd been there for me, was pretending it was all fine. I got in my car and drove off, angry and hurt, wondering how he could do this. The betrayal sank in deeper over the next few days. I stayed home, avoiding calls and texts from both of them. Lisa kept trying, sending messages like, let me explain, and it was a mistake. But I ignored everyone. Jake texted once, asking if I was mad about something, like he didn't know. I didn't reply. My head was full of them. Lisa's quiet smile, Jake's jokes, and it all felt fake now. I thought about our dates, the walks, the late talks, and how she'd open up about her family. Now that trust was gone. Jake had been my go-to guy, helping me move, lending me money when I was short, and now he was part of this. I paced my apartment, kicking a chair by accident, the noise making me jump. I couldn't eat much, just stare at the TV without watching. I started avoiding places we used to go. The park where we walked, the diner where we ate burgers. I stayed away. Friends asked why I wasn't around, and I made excuses, saying I was busy with work. Some knew something was up, but didn't push. I felt alone, betrayed by the 2 people I counted on most. Lisa's text stopped after a week, but Jake acted normal when I saw him at a store, asking if I wanted to hang out. I shook my head and left my chest tight. The hurt was mixed with anger, and I didn't know how to deal with it. I sat on my couch at night, the room dark, thinking about confronting them, but I wasn't ready. The silence was loud, and I kept seeing that bedroom door in my head. My life felt different, and I wasn't sure how to move forward with this weight on me. After telling Lisa I couldn't forgive her, I needed to face Jake. A few days later, I called him and asked to meet at a park near his place. I didn't want to do it over the phone or at his house. We sat on a bench, the air cool, with a few people walking dogs in the distance. I got straight to it, saying, "What happened at the party with Lisa?" He leaned back, looking calm, and shrugged. "It just happened, man," he said, like it was no big deal. "We were drunk, talking, and things got out of hand." His tone was flat, no sign of guilt, just a slight edge of annoyance. I stared at him, my hands clenching, and asked why he didn't stop. He said, "I didn't plan it. It was a mistake, okay?" But his eyes didn't show regret, just irritation, like I was bothering him. I pressed him, asking how long it had been going on. He shook his head, saying, "It was just that night, nothing before." I didn't believe him. Thinking about how he'd looked at her at the first party, the way he talked to her at his place, he crossed his arms, getting defensive, and said, "Why are you making this a thing? It's not like you own her." That made me mad. I stood up, my voice rising, and said, "She's my girlfriend, and you're my best friend. How could you?" He stayed seated, looking up at me, and muttered, "Chill out. It's not that serious." His lack of care hit me hard, and I realized he wasn't sorry at all. It was more like he was mad I called him out. We argued for a bit, me asking why he didn't tell me, and him saying it wasn't his job to confess. He stood up, brushing it off, and said, "Let's move on. It's not worth fighting over." I shook my head, my chest tight, and told him I couldn't just forget. He walked away, calling back, "Your loss," like he didn't care. I stood there, watching him go, feeling the anger burn. This was a guy who'd helped me move into my apartment, loaned me cash when I was short, and now he acted like I was the problem. I sat back down, my mind racing with memories, us playing video games as kids, him backing me up in fights. And now it was all ruined. The next day, I tried to process it. I stayed home, avoiding calls from friends who might know. Jake texted, acting normal, asking if I wanted to watch a game, but I didn't reply. I thought about Lisa, how her tears didn't change what happened, and now Jake's attitude made it worse. I lost my girlfriend, the one I trusted with her family stories, and my best friend, the one I counted on. I paced my apartment, kicking a shoe across the room, the noise making me jump. I couldn't eat, just stared at the wall, feeling empty. The betrayal was double. Lisa's cheating and Jake's denial. I remembered our talks, our laughs, and it all felt fake now. I wondered if they planned it, but Jake's calm face said no. It was just him not caring. I started avoiding places we went together, the park, the diner, staying in more. Friends noticed I was off, asking what was up, but I said I was busy with work. Some hinted they'd heard rumors, but I didn't confirm. I felt alone, cut off from the two people I'd been closest to. Jake kept texting casual stuff like, "You good?" but I ignored it. The hurt mixed with anger, and I didn't know how to let it go. I sat on my couch at night, the room dark, thinking about confronting him again, but what was the point? He'd shown his true colors. I lost love and friendship, and the weight of it sat heavy on me. I didn't know how to move forward, but I knew things wouldn't be the same. The weeks after talking to Jake felt heavy. I stayed in my apartment most of the time, the silence loud with my thoughts. I kept seeing Lisa on that bed, Jake's calm face, and it made my chest ache. I didn't eat much, just grabbed snacks when I had to, and slept poorly, waking up with a knot in my stomach. The betrayal stuck with me. Lisa's tears, Jake's excuses, and I couldn't shake it. I avoided the park where we walked, the diner where we ate, and any place they might show up. My phone stayed quiet after I stopped replying to texts, and I didn't call anyone. The hurt was deep, and I didn't know how to get past it. I stopped hanging out with old friends. Some were in Jake's circle, and I didn't want to hear their questions or rumors. When they texted, asking why I was off, I said I was busy with work at the store. A couple tried to visit, But I made excuses, saying I was sick or tired. It was easier to stay alone than explain. I threw out stuff that reminded me of them. Tickets from a movie we saw, a jacket Lisa left once. The apartment felt empty, but it was better than the memories. I sat on the couch a lot, staring at the TV without watching, just letting time pass. The weight of losing my girlfriend and best friend pressed on me, and I wondered if I'd ever feel normal again. After a month, I decided to try getting back to life. I started with sports, joining a cheap gym nearby. I lifted weights, ran on the treadmill, and felt my body get stronger even if my mind was still a mess. It helped take the edge off, giving me something to focus on. At work, I took extra shifts at the store, stocking shelves and fixing radios, keeping busy so I wouldn't think too much. A co-worker, Tom, noticed I was quieter and asked if I was okay. I said, yeah, just tired, and he let it go. I started meeting new people there, like a guy who worked in the back, and we talked about sports scores during breaks. It wasn't the same as with Jake, but it was a start. I got into a routine. Mornings were for the gym, afternoon for work, and nights for eating alone or watching shows. I didn't go out much, sticking to my neighborhood, avoiding the old spots. One day, I saw a girl from the party at the store, but she didn't mention Lisa or Jake, just asked about a radio part. I was glad she didn't bring it up. I never saw Lisa again. She stopped calling, and I didn't hear her name. Jake was gone too. No texts, no run-ins at the gas station. It was like they vanished, and I was okay with that. The hurt faded a little, replaced by a quiet focus on myself. I fixed more radios, saved some money, and felt a bit stronger each day. By the second month, I was doing better. I joined a pickup basketball game at the gym, meeting a few guys who didn't know my past. We played on weekends, and it felt good to laugh again. Work got busier, and I took on a small repair project, which kept me busy. I still thought about Lisa and Jake sometimes, her stories about her dad, his old jokes, but it didn't hurt as much. I avoided their friends completely, and no one pushed me to reconnect. My life was simpler now, just me and my routine. I didn't date or trust easily, but I was okay with that. The apartment was mine again, no ghosts of them lingering. I sat by the window one night, watching the street, feeling like I was moving forward, even if it was slow. Looking back, I realized that Lisa was my first real love, and also my first big betrayal. It's been months since that night at Jake's party, and I've had time to think. She was the girl I met at that first party, the one who talked about her dad leaving and her quiet life. I fell for her, our coffee dates, the walks, the late talks, and thought she was different. Then I saw her with Jake, and it all crashed down. He was my best friend, the guy I trusted since we were kids, and he let me down too. The hurt stayed with me, but it taught me something. I've changed, become hard in how I deal with people, but also wiser about what matters. At first, I was a mess, avoiding everyone, feeling empty. But as I got back to the gym and work, I started seeing things clearer. I used to believe what people said, Lisa's apologies, Jake's excuses, but not anymore. Words don't mean much if the actions don't match. I think about how she cried, saying she was drunk, and how Jake acted like it was no big deal. It showed me they didn't care. Not really. I've stopped trusting promises or sweet talk. Now I watch what people do, how they act, not just what they say. A guy at the gym offered to spot me, and I checked if he followed through before relying on him. It's a small thing, but it's how I live now. I've gotten wiser too. Back then, I was naive, thinking Lisa and Jake would never hurt me. I let my guard down, share my life with them, my job, my family stuff, and they turned on me. Now I keep things closer. I don't tell new people everything right away, like I did with Lisa. At work, I chat with Tom about sports, but I don't open up about my past. It's not coldness, it's caution. I've learned that not everyone has good intentions, and I won't be caught off guard again. The basketball games helped. I met guys who showed up consistently, and that built trust slowly, not all at once. The betrayal changed me for the better in some ways. I'm stronger physically from the gym and mentally from figuring this out. I don't miss Lisa's voice or Jake's jokes. They feel like echoes now. I've moved on, sticking to my routine: work, sports, quiet nights. I don't go to old spots anymore, and I haven't seen them since. A friend mentioned Jake got a new job, and someone said Lisa moved, but I didn't ask details. It doesn't matter. I've let go of the anger, replacing it with a harder edge. I'm not the same guy who trusted too easily. I sit by my window sometimes, watching the street, thinking about how this taught me to stand on my own. This experience shaped me. My first love was real, but the betrayal was a wake-up call. I've learned to read people better, to wait and see their actions before I commit. I don't date much now, focusing on myself instead. The hurt is still there sometimes, a dull ache, but it's made me smarter. I won't be naive again, won't let words fool me like they did with Lisa and Jake. My life is simpler now: work, gym, a few new friends, and I'm okay with that. I've grown from this, and that's what counts. The past is behind me, and I'm ready to keep going, trusting only what I can see.